We will call this regular city council meeting to order on Monday, August 5th, 2019 at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Horn?
Present.
Mr. Bateman?
Present.
Mr. Welch?
Present.
Mr. Downs?
Present.
Mr. Keller?
Present.
Mr. Haneke?
Present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have anyone that would like to speak under public participation? Okay. Moving down to the consent agenda, we have the payment of bills, the approval of minutes, July 15th, 2019, regular city council meeting, July 23rd, 2019, committee of the whole meeting, and July 29th, 2019, special city council meeting. Request from the Logan County Tourism Bureau to permit the closing of McLean Street from the Art Institute building to the corner of McLean and Pulaski Streets on Saturday, September 21st, 2019, from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. for the world record Abe Lincoln attempt, as well as the request from the Harvest of Talents for World Hunger Ministry team to permit the closing of various city streets for the Harvest Run on Saturday, October 26, 2019, from 7 a.m. until its conclusion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderman Horn made the motion. Alderman Welch seconded. Discussion? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Under ordinance and resolution, we have the ordinance amending the City of Lincoln liquor regulations.
Motion to approve.
Second for discussion purposes.
Okay. Alderman Welch made the motion. Alderman Bateman seconded. Discussion? Kevin?
So, as this read, since it wasn't amended during the discussion, are we taking out the receipts gathering?
Mr. Hoblet?
The last time we were here to discuss this, several aldermen, Mr. Haneke in particular, had some questions and was curious as to what other municipalities had rules potentially like this. I have done some research in association with this. I have not found a municipality in the course of my research that has reporting requirements for gaming for the gaming machines. That doesn't mean they're not out there. It's just the ones that I've seen, they're not there. Now, I've looked through various, both home rule and non-home rule municipalities. There is some restrictions that I've seen for this council's information moving forward. Some municipalities do have licenses for gaming parlors in particular, but I will note that those gaming parlor liquor licenses are for the home rule municipalities, and we are not home rule. Sometimes they put hours restrictions on the various gaming parlors that do exist, but long story short, from what the information that I've gathered thus far, I have not seen reporting requirements. The only reporting requirements I have seen thus far are for the various licenses, A, B, C, restaurants and whatnot. Some municipalities elect to have reporting requirements, like say for the restaurants being 70 or 60% food sales, which is what this council used to have in place before the last amendment to the Liquor Commission.
Jeff?
Mr. Hoblet, was there did you find any cap on the fee that we can, currently we have a $25
I did not note a cap, okay? But the body of my research was in regards to the reporting requirements, but I did not notice a cap, to be honest. Again, the fees varied from municipality to municipality. And I will note that the ones I saw that had the highest fees were the home rule municipalities. So that's not necessarily applicable to us. But for the non-home rule, I did, like I said, the fees were, they were adjusted, and To be honest, they're usually vary based upon population size and whatnot, so.
Peggy?
We have a book downstairs on gaming, and it says $25 was the most we could charge per machine per year.
Were you asking for the liquor license in particular, or the gaming machine, or the gaming machine?
Oh, I was under the impression the proposal was to charge $1,000. Mr. Hopeful maybe could elaborate on that. Was it? Was it $1,000 fee, or explain that a little bit more? I guess what you had at the last meeting.
The proposal was January 1st, 2020, to raise gaming $500 for the right to have gaming. In 2021, it would be raised another $500 to $1,000, where it would stand going forward. In other words, 2022, 2023 would be $1,000. I had also emailed John, city attorney, to find out if he knew or aware of any issue with the state or anything that would make it improper to do that. And from what I understand, it's not an issue.
But yet the city clerk says there is.
Talking about license itself.
Right.
It's two different type of
Right.
license. Right.
And now,
License.
while you're thinking this over,
All right, now I'm understanding. Thank you. I do.
the state just came out with, and unfortunately, I was going to update more of information today, but a little problem with cable, so I have nothing till Wednesday. But I was told that by the state that there will now be an allowance for 6 games. And someone had, and I don't know if there's truth to this or not, that some of the truck stops would be allowed up to 10. And I get a positive shake from Chuck, who I assume knows this, and so yes. So I'm assuming your Thorntons and your Becks and other places will be. I think so right now.
Qualifies as a truck stop.
Right.
Kevin?
So, 2 choices. We can either table this tonight and bring it up at the next voting session, because right off the top of my head with what was just said, I think we should have a fee for up to 5 games and a fee for a business that's going to go to the 6 to 10 range. So if the fee for 5 games, just throwing around numbers out there, is $2,000, then once you go to number 6 through 10, what's wrong with us charging an extra $1,000? That if you're going to go over 5 games, you need to spend the extra $1,000 over above.
Let me clarify that. Every gaming business that now has liquor license with us, anyone coming forward outside of a truck stop is allowed up to 6 games, as long as they've got room and can follow the state's requirements. Truck stops, of which we have 2, sounds like they could have up to 10 games. They'd be the only ones. Truck stops, from what I understand, in the state are the only ones that would be allowed to go up to 10.
So why can't we go first 5, second 5? I mean,
There is no second 5 except truck stops. Everybody can have 6, except truck stops can have 10.
what qualifies, if you go by the qualifications of a truck stop, Thornton's on Woodlawn Road
Doesn't
falls into that because they sell enough gallons of fuel.
diesel?
They sell quite a few gallons of diesel. I mean, I see
I've
trucks
not
in there all the time.
I don't see semis in there.
There's,
Oh, I do. Yeah.
Well, the ones
Depends on
delivering
which
gas.
Thank you, Mayor. To qualify as a truck stop, they have to sell, and I don't remember what the percentage is or how many gallons of diesel, but that's only part of it. The other part of it is the business has to be on 3 acres or more. And so the Thorntons out by the interstate would qualify, Beck's would qualify. Thorntons, and Keokuk would not. If that's the one you're asking about, that would not fall under that, so that wouldn't be considered a truck stop.
So what's wrong with upping the license for the 2 truck stops then?
You're the council. We brought up an idea that we thought would be beneficial for the citizens and bring in more money, tax money, for the city. I don't have a problem with whatever you want to do as a group.
Mr. Welch?
Seems to me that it's just cleaner if we just put a per terminal fee, and that covers everybody. That actually allows us to fluctuate as the state laws fluctuate as well, correct?
Right.
But I think the fees, if I'm reading this correctly, are tied to a liquor license that has video terminals. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that would take it up to the $1,000.
I also did some research on other municipalities. I didn't forgot that at home. I'm sorry. I did forget those papers I had at home, but a couple of the municipalities charge the actual gaming machine companies $1,000 per location. Another municipality charges a physical sticker has to be adhered to each machine, and then you would definitely know how many machines were out there by the number of stickers you issue. But I mean, I also think it needs tabled and maybe discussed even further, but that's my opinion on it.
Kevin?
So I personally would like to table it and come up with a fee for the 2 truck stops, because let's face it, they're immediately going to go to 10 games if we allow them to go to 10 games. So it's sometimes not fair for, they're going to have 10 games and most places are going to have 5 or 6. So if they're going to, if every place in town can go to 6, then how about we structure a fee, unless we can get it worked out tonight, and call it anything 7 through 10 is an extra $1,000.
Make it easy on yourself, $200 a game. That way you're going to go, just hear me out on this. For 2020, it would be $100 per game. So if the truck stops go to 10, their first year's $1,000. Second year, $2,000. And everyone who goes from 5 to 6 would pay, instead of $200 a game, would be $1,200 that they would pay starting in 2021. So for 2020, it would be $600. 2021, it would be $1,200. All you'd have to do is amend your motion, but I don't have a problem with you tabling it either, especially since Mr. Parrott's not here.
Mr. Howlett?
Again, the bulk of my research was in association with the reporting requirements, and I did some research in regards to the license itself, in regards to a per machine fee. I would have to look into the legality of that, so I'm not exactly, I counsel this council, so to speak, to not rush into this before we can ascertain the various legalities that are necessary.
The other thing, I'll raise my hand, I'm not used to this. Are you talking, you want to waive the 30% then completely out and just, you don't have to worry about that then? Okay, so you know you have someone who's not going to be happy about that. So,
Tracy?
Pardon my ignorance, but what is the problem we're trying to solve here? I mean, I watched the meeting that I missed online, so I listened to the discussion that took place, but for Jeff and Kathy and myself, we've sat through this and perhaps even Ron, I'm not sure, we've sat through this exact same conversation before, less than 6 months ago.
Right.
And it took us several weeks to get to the point where we were at. And so I am in favor of making the amendments as the commission has recommended, but I want to be very conscious that we're not just going after businesses for money just because they can get 4 or 5 more machines. You know, we have to be conscious of their ability to operate as well.
Correct. And you're asking me?
Sure.
The idea behind this is, obviously, this has been an opportunity for economic development. And it is a resource that by some businesses have told me generates $40,000 to $60,000 based on 5 machines. It's also been told to me by a couple of people, and I don't disagree with them, that for the city to collect $1,000 in taxes on that is not going to hurt their business in doing it. The other thing we need to look at is you're going to have a bunch of people. We've had a number of businesses that call us and want to get involved, that they want to do this because they know there's a good return with very little investment. And so to try to create something more in the survival of the fittest, this was one of the options we came up with. And we thought it would be good for the city. And if you listen to the meeting, one of the things I asked for was give back to the citizens. And my suggestion was by reduction in real estate taxes. You figured 12.5 is not much, but 25 starts to get more. And if we get to 30 or 35 businesses, or start bringing in money like Alderman Bateman was suggesting, that becomes a sizable chunk for the citizens. And I'm looking for every way to keep people in Lincoln.
Kevin?
Well, I'm against the receipts because there's just so many ways of skating that system. I don't know how it could be accurate. You can come up with different receipts for different things. For instance, I've said it many times. I said it in the back of the room when I sat back there. You could have a business that owns 2 businesses. He buys a product under his one business and he sells it to his other business, and boom, he's got his 70%. That's skating the system. There's a million ways around that. So I'm against the receipt thing. Where I'm coming up with this new law as it's changing is every place in town can now go to 6 games, but they have the unfair advantage that they're not a truck stop and go to 10. If the state changed it to where they go to 10, they'd immediately go to 10. So I'm just trying to come up with a fair fee that if the places here in town that can go to 6, to me, there's no reason why you can't up that permit fee for those 2 truck stops who's going to go to 10. Because now they have 10 machines that people are going to drive out there hoping there's an empty machine or whatever, versus the 6. That's where I'm coming from, is to level the playing field. Up to the state maximum is 6, 1 fee. Once you go past 6 and you're following that truck stop, here's your other fee. Because the truck stop, they're just going to write the check. I mean, they got money coming in off the highway all the time. I don't want to make it a ridiculous fee, but I think it should be, it's almost double the games. Why not double the fee or come close to it?
Mr. Conzo?
Thank you, Mayor. It seems to me you're mixing 2 different things here. One is the liquor license and the other is the fee for the machines. The city clerk has indicated that you can only charge $25 per machine. So if you've got 6, you're going to get, 6 times $25 for the machines. If you've got 10, you're going to get 10 times $25, as opposed to the liquor license. So now if you're going to do this with the truck stop, you're going to be charging the truck stops a higher liquor license fee than you are, say, a restaurant that has liquor and can only have 6 machines. I don't know. I guess that's probably something the city attorney will have to investigate. I don't, or research. I don't know that that's even allowable. It might be a good idea to find out first.
Tracy?
I think it's clear that we need to do a little bit more research with this one. So I would make a motion that we table this item.
Yeah, we have a second and a first.
I'll withdraw my second.
I will withdraw my first. And then I will make a motion to table this item.
I will second that motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
No? We just go on to the next thing? Okay. So just go on to the next, okay. Right. Do we do roll call?
Do a roll call for table.
Roll call. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Moving down to bids, we have the approval of bid from PH Broughton for the HMA Mill and Overlay Project in an amount not to exceed $164,498.77.
Move to approve.
Second.
Jeff made the motion, Ron seconded. Discussion? Discussion? Jeff?
Walt, any time frame on how soon they'll start?
I know that Mr. Adams has already reached out to him, and I think the contracts are pretty close to being executed. As far as a mobilization date, I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Further questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Approval of bid from Bennett's Construction for the scarification and oil and chip project in an amount not to exceed $242,462.
Motion approved.
Second.
Tracy made the motion. Kathy seconded. Discussion? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Under new business and communications, we have the approval of amendment number 1 to the CSO improvement construction.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Kevin made the motion. Ron seconded. Discussion? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Approval of amendment number 3 to the Union Street pumping station design.
Motion approved.
Second.
Tracy made the motion. Sam seconded. Discussion? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Approval of targets for the 2019 curb and sidewalk replacement project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Jeff made the motion. Tracy seconded. Discussion? Mr. Keller.
Thank you, Mayor. A question for Walt. So I did make an effort in the last week to walk all of these sidewalks, and indeed, a lot of them are pretty rough. But there are some of them, particularly, I think it was the one out by Washington Monroe. I think that's Pekin Street, and part of the section, one section of the east side of that road is, of the east section of the sidewalk is. I didn't say that right. On the east side of the road, where the section of the sidewalk is gone, some of it is also present. Do we have to remove the entire section? Especially because there are some areas where maybe a little patchwork needs to be done, but is it necessary for a continuous sidewalk to make it?
No, we can fill in. If there's good sections of sidewalk
Okay.
there, then we can tie into those.
Okay.
As long as elevations and everything work out.
Okay.
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 And they're ADA compliant.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Approval City of Lincoln and FOP Union Labor Contract Proposed Memorandum of Understanding.
Mayor, I request that we remove item 9E from the agenda.
I'd second that.
Mr. Keller made the motion, or Mr. Keller made the motion, Mr. Welch seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Do we have any announcements? Yes. Chuck and Jeff?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, we received this postcard. The mayor did just today. It's addressed to the city council, and it says, "Thank you for your budget allocation. It was appreciated, and it will be used for our operating expenses. Thank you very much." And it's from the Logan County Genealogical and Historical Society. As I think you all know, we did issue a sponsorship in the modest amount of $750 to that organization. It's meant a great deal to them and made it possible for them to operate. If you go back a couple of years, you know, the street in front of their museum was closed due to the construction around the depot, and the city council last year and this year agreed to do this, and they're obviously very grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yes, I worked, since Mr. Hofel's still here, I've been working still with IDOT and our railroad crossing on Kickapoo Street that we started on. And the latest, I sent Walt and city administrator an email on that. This is a quote from Canadian National Railway. "We have made repairs to address the most recent reported issue of loose panels. We expect to do a full rehab on the construction, on the crossing this construction season with anticipated IDOT funding. Hopefully that they go through with that." So just wanted to pass that along.
Any other announcements, Chief?
Just a reminder, we have the National Night Out tomorrow night at Ray White Park from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We will have a bounce house out there for the kids to jump around on, and some nice stuff to pass out, hopefully, so for the kids. So you're not required to come, but if you'd like to stop by and have a hot dog, that'd be great. I also want to give kudos to 3 of our officers. One of our goals for the police department, through our strategic plan, was to increase the DUI arrests and try to bring down the accidents that have been happening not only in Lincoln but around our county. And 3 top performers that were recognized by the Alliance Against Intoxicated Motorists was Corporal Maurice Johnson, Officer Cole Grunland, and Officer Brandon Berkeley. All were the top performers for DUIs last year. So kudos to them for doing a great job for us.
Great. Peggy?
We've had some phone calls of people that would love to water their grass for this little drought we're going through, and they're afraid it's going to change their sewer rates. We've informed everybody, and this is just to put it out there, that your rate is based on October, November, and December water reads. So you can water all you want, but we're not responsible for your water bill going up. It has totally different from the sewer bill. So you can choose to water if you want. It looks like Gabe from the water company has something to say on that.
Your conservation would be greatly appreciated. In watering your lawns, please be careful not to water too much.
Do we have any other announcements? Tracy?
I make a motion that we go into executive session under 2C2 collective bargaining and 2C5 purchase or lease of real estate. 2C1 is 2C1.
2C1, 2C2, and 2C5.
2C1 is personnel, isn't it? 2C1, 2C2, and 2C5.
So 1 and 5.
I believe 1 is personnel, correct? 2C1 personnel, 2C2 collective bargaining, 2C5 purchase or lease of real estate then.
Second.
Welch made the motion, Jeff seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
7:30, we will go into executive session. There may or may not be future city business. Thank you.
By the way, that was not an official conservation.
Save the water.